All right, Ray, check this out. I want you to see this Ram dealer right here. All these vehicles sitting everywhere at these dealerships right now. And it seems like right now we're still having a hard time moving a lot of these vehicles, even though we got the CEO out. But we've had some articles come out saying about some of the transformation that Stellantis is going to have since we have their CEO's exit. But is it a little too late right now for a lot of these dealers? And I can't imagine what they would even implement right now. We've seen advertisements of buy a Grand Wagoneer and get a free Jeep Compass.
Yes.
And we're still seeing vehicles not move. What do they have to do? It seems like the easy answer is lower the freaking price, but if not, just give them another Jeep for free that they don't want.
That maybe it's buy one get two. I don't know, because if buy one get one isn't working, then maybe you have to think along the lines of buy one get two. Um, I don't know. We do know that the brands moving forward are going to be going in a much different direction than what they had been planning on doing when Carlos Tavares was still the CEO. I mean, they are making major adjustments and changes to what their thinking was. They won't be relying on EVs quite as much at any of their brands moving forward. They want to keep the option of ICE and hybrid and plug-in hybrid available for a much longer period of time. So we'll see what happens. They seem to be making some headway, according to some stats that you see. Is it enough? Only time will tell. I do have a question for you, though. Is it just in the Charlotte market where every dealer is overstocked with cars? Is it the Charlotte folks just aren't buying new cars? Is that what it is?
So I know that I watch a lot of other people that have started doing the same kind of videos that I do for some reason. I guess they know that it works because they can see me do it and it works. But they're all across the country. I see a bunch in California. I see a bunch in the Midwest where all of these dealerships are. You would think that someone like me who's going to these dealerships talking about
Yeah.
earnings and stuff, I'm cherry picking these dealers. I'm not. I'm every Ford dealership that's around me has a surplus of F-150s and Ford Broncos. Every Jeep, Dodge, Ram dealership has a ton of Gladiators near me. They have a bunch of Rams. You can see it in the days supply of the inventory that all these dealerships have, that all these brands have right now, keeps going up and up and up and up. Even when we have more incentives, we still have inventory that's continuously on the rise. I don't know where the ceiling is. I don't know if it's for Ford right now, it's 103 days. Where are they going to get to before they start getting into panic mode? Is 150 days? I don't know where the line is. What's the I don't know if you ever keep up with the amount of days inventory at your dealerships? Is that a metric that you kept
Oh,
up with?
absolutely.
What's the
I
highest that you've ever seen during the worst time?
well, I don't know. I could have two RLs in stock at the Acura store, and I could have a year's supply. Um, so so sometimes it's as ridiculous as that. Um, but yeah, absolutely. That's the metric that you live by if you're managing your inventory. Is you want to match your inventory level to what your daily sales rate is for each model. Um, so, what's the point where the manufacturer starts to get concerned? Well, you could say it's Stellantis. That I guess that number was when it kind of sort of was inching closer and closer to a 200-day supply of vehicles, where the dealers were choked and couldn't take any more, and were turning down allocations. The manufacturer's sales reps were begging dealers that were choking to take more, that, well, literally they didn't have room to take more. So I think when you start approaching those levels, that's where, as a manufacturer, you have to do something about it. And I believe it was in the third quarter where Stellantis came out with programs where they said, we have to reduce over the next 90 days, we have to reduce the dealership on hand inventory levels by 100,000 vehicles. Well, that's a hell of a task. Now, allegedly, they say they did it, but you can still find way too many of all the Stellantis products at every one of the Stellantis dealers. But how did they do it? There were times when they were advertising 15% off from the manufacturer, before you even said hello. Um, Seriously. And 0% finance rates and things like that, and not just for 36 months, but for 60 and 72 months. So yeah, I think as you start to approach a 200-day supply of vehicles, you start to really think about how it is you need to impact that, and what it's going to take to actually impact that. And we know Stellantis has impacted the number. We also know that customers are still complaining that their prices are way too high, even with all the incentives. So they need to find a middle ground. Obviously, I think that's what they're trying to work on.
So, do you know recently where Stellantis's days of inventory? I don't know if you and Zach have covered it recently for Jeep or Ram. Know
Yeah,
where
it's
it's at?
been in excess of 150 days.
Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. So there's two brands that let me pull back out. There's two brands that
Yeah.
I know of that have been in quote unquote emergency mode. Nissan has actually used the term we are in, the CEO
Yeah.
has said we are in emergency mode. We have to do something. Stellantis CEO's out. Everything that they're saying from the company, we are in emergency mode. We've got to do something. So when you have those two companies that are doing that, you can see a lot more stuff like this, where you have a Jeep Gladiator, they're advertised $6,000 under MSRP on the internet. And traditionally, what would happen is you wouldn't see advertisements like that come across through the car market. What you would have to do is you have to go to the store, talk to the freaking salesman, and then you can get the money off there. Now, there's going to be some particular models where they're going to advertise a little bit off MSRP or whatever. But if you want to get the best deal, not you're traditionally not going to see $6,000 off MSRP advertised. So that means you can go to that dealership and you're going to be able to get more than that off of it. So something like a Jeep Gladiator, they are in absolute panic mode if they're taking $6,000 off MSRP. This one's $10,000 off MSRP before you even walk into the door. Now, on top of that, you're going to have some rebates. You're going to have some kind of special interest rate. You're going to be able to go. They are trying to move metal right now, and this is a situation that both Jeep, Dodge, Ram, and Nissan are going to have to work through. And it's something that they might not be able to really solve, at least in the next year, in the next 2 years, because they've put themselves in a position that they're in right now anyway.
It's almost like if you're a salesman at one of those stores and a customer walks in and you greet them and you go, "Hi, I'm $10,000 off. My name's Ray. I can get you at least $10,000 off on anything you're looking at." And that's as a salesperson, that's a hell of a way to have to start the conversation. I used to have a salesperson that worked for me, and literally he would introduce himself, and basically the next line out of his mouth was, "If I can get you the vehicle, including taxes, tags, and all fees for MSRP, do we have a deal?" We haven't figured out what car they're on yet, but that's basically where we're at. It's like, "Hi, my name's Ray, and I can get you at least 10 grand off. What vehicle would you like to look at?" Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, tell every living person you know that they need to subscribe to Car Sense with Brandon and Ray. And as a salesperson that gets paid off of gross profit, That's a hell of a way to start. Um, you know, and I see in comments oftentimes, you know, you're always giving customers ways to save money, and as a salesperson, nobody wants to work for free. You know, I hate working for a mini. You know, I spend 3 hours so I can make $100 or whatever it is. Um, the only thing I can say to those salespeople, and this is what I used to say to my customers, is think of yourself as a potato farmer. And your job as that potato farmer is to fill a bushel basket with potatoes at the end of the month. So if you're a salesperson, your job is to fill that bushel basket with as many potatoes as you can. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, in stores where they're overstocked, there's going to be a poop ton of small potatoes. Okay, and that'll be deals that just are going to be minis. You're not going to be making any real money on them. And then there's
Define what a mini is. Not everyone here has
a
been in the
mini
car
is
industry. Yeah.
a mini is that the gross profit is so low that the the salesperson might get paid $100. That's the minimum commission that they could get paid for selling a car. You know, typically they get a percentage of the gross profit. So they could sell a car, they might lose money, the dealership might lose money, but the salesperson's still going to get paid $100 for his efforts. That's what's known as a mini. So if you're filling that bushel basket with potatoes, and they're small potatoes, those represent your mini deals that you're not making a lot of money on. So that means you need to find some deals that are going to have some medium-sized potatoes and some deals that have big ass potatoes, so that you can average out to getting much more than $100 commission per car. But you have to look at it as your job is to fill that damn bushel basket. And sometimes it's going to be minis. Sometimes it's going to be small potatoes. And I used to tell that to my customers. I have to fill this. My job is to make sure this bushel basket's filled with potatoes at the end of the month. If it's okay with you, you could be a small potato. Will that work for you? And they go, well, what does that mean? I said, we're not going to make a lot of money. Will that work for you? Okay, I'm in on that. So that's that's how salespeople have to think. And there's going to be customers that come in that will unknowingly allow you to make money, to make a nice profit that you're going to get paid a commission on.
So I've now been a car dealer for it's got to be 14 years at this point. I've been saying 13 years, I think, for over a year now. So it's got to be 14 years at this point.
Okay.
But I've never worked at a bigger franchise dealer. I've never worked at a dealership. I've never been a salesperson. And even my dealership, we've never worked on commission. You're talking about minis, the minimum that these salespeople can make. Is there a maximum? Does it get cut off at a certain point?
Well, does it get cut off at a certain point? Here's how I would describe it to you.
Just before you get this question, just the reason, because I would think that traditionally it wouldn't matter, but I'm thinking about over the last couple years where you can have a vehicle that a customer paid $30,000 over MSRP. Does the franchise then cut the commission that
many dealerships did? Yes,
yeah.
I would say to you, if I was the dealer principal, if I was the general manager, if I was the sales manager, I would pay my salespeople whatever it is that they earned off of the profit. And you know, if, for instance, if you under allowed and a salesperson has is working on selling a car, the customer has a trade in. The used car manager appraises the trade and says the trade is worth $10,000. The salesperson goes out and says to the customer, great news, I was able to get you $6,000 for your trade in. Used car manager said it's worth 10. Okay. The customer doesn't know, and they go, "Oh, we're so glad you were able to get us that much." So the salesperson only gives them $10,000. That's a $4,000 under allowance. Okay, that's $4,000 in extra profit that the salesperson would get paid on. I wouldn't cheat them out of a penny of that. Now, during the pandemic, when every dealer was charging $5, $10, $15, $20,000 over, most of those dealers weren't paying their salespeople on any of the extra profit from the market adjustments. Okay, they would pay the salesperson what the gross profit was from invoice cost to the selling to the MSRP, but that market adjustment above that, they weren't paying the salespeople on that at a lot of dealerships. Well, if the salesperson was good enough to convince the customer to pay it, then as the owner, you should be good enough to give him his commission on that. Because just between you and me, the owner didn't have his ass out there trying to do it. Okay? The owner had his salesperson out there doing it. So if the salesperson got him to say yes, pay him. Okay? But a lot of dealerships, they did not. So they would cap how much you could get paid on certain vehicles.
Yeah, of course they did. They're going to screw the customer. They're going to screw their employee. They're going to screw their managers. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
get it.
the doc fee is another. It screws the salespeople and the managers because nobody participates in the doc fee other than the owner. That doesn't get for payroll purposes. That doesn't count as profit for the dealership that the general manager would get paid off of, or the sales manager. So yeah, I mean, lots of dealers figure out ways to make sure they don't pay their employees what they should.
And talking about salespeople, I can tell you something that I've noticed because I've been going to these dealerships now for, oh my goodness, how long have I been on YouTube? 2.5 years now, 3 years, forever. Going to these dealerships, and I noticed the big difference between the I will say predatory nature, but the aggressiveness of the salespeople. Because I would go a year and a half ago, 2 years onto these dealerships, I wouldn't get approached by a soul. I could be out there for an hour and a half because I used to be really bad at recording these videos, so it would take me forever to get a 10-minute video out. I would stumble over my words, so I'd be at the dealership forever, just walking around trying to think of what I was going to see. I can do it now in 15 minutes, no problem. Yeah. But I get approached in the 15 minutes that I do it now, 10x more than I got approached for the hour and a half that I was at the dealership a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So I can tell just from me being on these dealership lots that salespeople are getting more desperate. It's like they can't just sit in the sales floor and wait for that consumer to come in and say, I'll take it. They actually have to go to work now. And that's something that I think there's probably going to be even more turnaround at the sales position. And when you have more turnaround at the sales positions now, because it's not as easy as it used to be, you're going to have probably salespeople that are really eager in the beginning, and then they just leave because it's so hard to sell a car right now.
It is, salespeople during the pandemic. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. Okay, and so what did they learn to say? Well, either you buy it or the person standing behind you will. Well, that's
or supply and demand when they're negotiating.
Yeah, that's not selling. That's not creating any value for the customer. That's like, hey, you pay me extra and I'll do you the favor and let you pay me. Otherwise, I'm not interested. Well, those people now have to relearn the art of selling. Okay, you have to now learn how to overcome objections from customers. You have to learn how to read people again. You have to figure out what's important to your customers again, so that you can tailor your presentation and your demonstration to what it is that is their hot button, not just you regurgitating facts and figures. So a lot of these salespeople have had to relearn their craft. And then a lot of new ones that come in when that come into dealerships that are overstocked with stuff, and they don't know, these salespeople don't know what they're doing, and they spend 5, 6, 7 hours selling somebody a car so that they can make that minimum $100 commission. And they start looking at, the amount of time that they put in at the dealership at 50, 60, 70 hours a week, to be making $300 and $400. They start to have second thoughts about what it is that they're doing. And so, the manager has a placeholder in the newspaper. In the old days, we used to call them placeholders in the newspaper to keep your advertising rates lower, and you always had a help wanted ad running in the classified. But whether it be whatever job sites there are, Indeed, Monster, I don't know, whatever they are today. Thankfully, I don't need to use it because I ain't looking for work. But a lot of these dealerships probably have constant ads looking for salespeople running all the time, because who the hell wants to work 60 hours a week to make $400 or $500?
I got a question for you. So you've managed many sleazy salesmen over your years in the business. Was there ever a situation where you had a salesperson that was just too sleazy and you had to sit them down and like, dude, just stop being so sleazy? Was there ever a situation where you had salespeople that were doing things that just anything to get a sale, and you had to literally sit them down as their sales manager and say, dude, you got to stop doing this?
Well, no, I would sit them down and say, you can continue doing this, just not here. Okay. If I caught you doing stuff that you shouldn't have been doing, if I caught you lying to the customer or promising things to a customer that you knew we couldn't do or wouldn't do, then I would. I hate to be so callous, but I would boot your ass right out of the store. One of the things that I did at when I was with the Penske organization at the Acura store there in North Scottsdale, at the Scottsdale 101 Auto Collection, is I gave each of my salespeople $500 a month that they could utilize. It was free money that they could utilize towards keeping customers happy, so that if somebody they sold a car to came in and they had an issue or a problem and they wanted to take care of that issue or the problem, they didn't have to come to a manager to do it. They could just utilize their $500 monthly account that they had that was intended for customer satisfaction. Now, you couldn't be the salesperson and say, just come back tomorrow and I'll get you that set of floor mats. That didn't work, okay? You couldn't use it like that. But if the customer came back and there was a legitimate issue, they were empowered to spend the money to keep the customer happy. So I always tried to keep it on the up and up. I wanted everything disclosed. For instance, if a customer was looking at a used car and the tires were so-so, and the customer said to the salesperson, "Sure, those tires are so-so," and the salesperson said, "Don't worry about it. I'll get that handled for you." Now, the salesperson would tell me, "I never promised them new tires." Well, when you said, "Don't worry about it, I'll get that handled for you," what the customer heard was, "You're going to get me new tires." So when those situations would arise, it was real simple. I gave the customer new tires. Now, the salesperson would complain and go, "But I never really promised them that." Well, you did. You just didn't think you did. And so it's coming out of your end. It's coming out of the gross profit that you're going to get paid for. And if this was a continuing situation that we would have, you weren't working there anymore. It's, it's, you, you just have to deal straight with A, your managers, B, your customers. It's so much easier when you just tell the truth. There's so little to remember when you just tell the truth. If you lie to the customer, you have to remember that lie forever in case that customer ever comes back. So just tell the truth. When a customer says, "Can you do this?" and you can't, but you're somewhat ambivalent about it, no, just say, I would love to be able to help you, but this is not one of those situations where I'll be able to. Be upfront. It's not that hard. Well, I say that. Apparently it is for a lot of salespeople, because there are some sleazy salespeople out there. Okay, maybe more than some.
Yeah, there's a few more than some. This is one of the big reasons why I'm so proud of myself for always paying my sales staff a salary and never doing commission or anything like that. I feel like commission at the end of the day, commission is set up to be a good way to have overperformers get overpaid. That's a great thing to do. I love what is supposed to happen, but what typically happens, no matter if you're looking at the car market, you're looking at any other industry, commission brings out a lot of the bad eggs, and it happens very quickly because people are greedy. They want to make as much money as possible, and they're going to say whatever they can say to the customer to make the sale, to be able to get. I remember working I worked at Sears forever ago, and we sold TVs. I was in the electronics department, and we were paid on commission. And I remember even then there were guys that would sell TVs and tell the customer it comes with a free 5-year warranty or something that was not even close to truthful, to try to sell some of these electronics, and they were only making like $25 a TV or something. It's outstanding how little money people will sell their souls for, or just lie to a customer, and not even feel anything about it. It blows me away.
It's almost as if everyone has a price. Okay. At what price would it take to get you to lie, cheat, and steal? Well, I don't know my price, but it would be a lot. It'd have to be a lot of money, because I believe in not lying, cheating, and stealing. There are others out there that it's next to nothing. It could be a $5 lunch ticket. So I mean, I could tell you stories. I know of a salesperson that used to work in the Atlantic City area years and years and years ago, where he would tell people that the payment was for 48 months. And he'd have them sign a contract for 60 months. And this was in the old days where the bank would literally send you a payment book with 60 payment stubs in there. And his customers would come back and they'd say, "You told me this was a 48-month loan, and it's a 60-month loan. Look at this. I got my payment book. There's 60 payment slips in there." And he would go to the back and he'd say, "Oh, that damn bank made another mistake." And he'd rip out the last 12 payments. Okay, the slips for the people to send in when they're, so he could just rip them out and go, "Here you go. It's only 48 months. That's what it was supposed to be." Well, the issue didn't rear its ugly head again for 4 years. So, he was figuring, either he'd be dead or he'd be working somewhere else, and he didn't care. I could never sell my soul like that. It's just, I used to tell people, if the truth is going to preclude us from making a deal, If me telling you the absolute truth is going to keep you from saying yes, so be it. I can live with that because I don't want to lie to you to sell you something. I don't care what it is. I don't want to be the one to lie to you. If I can't build enough value in what I'm selling, if I can't give you enough reasonable logic to go ahead and do it, and I have to resort to making stuff up, I'm not going to do that. And if you insist that you want me to lie to you, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. This is what it is. Either it works or it doesn't work. But if you want me to lie, I'm not. Now, I'm not going to say I was your normal salesperson and your normal manager, because I wasn't. Because there's many managers out there that can teach their sleaziest salespeople even sleazier ways of doing things. I was aware of the sleazy way of doing things. Didn't mean I would utilize them, but I was aware.
And I think the moral to that whole long ass story was read your paperwork, people, whenever you're signing for a car.
Oh, yeah.
If you liked what you saw today, do us a favor right here at CarSense. Like and subscribe. We're new. We're growing. You can't do without us.